Good afternoon. I wanted to make this video. It's kind of a sobering one about suicide, and I wanted to make it for parents. Hopefully parents who have kids that have not suicided, but also for parents of those kids who have, which I would imagine is perhaps one of the hardest situations to grasp and to deal with in this world. I've had a lot of people in my family pass, but none from suicide, although I did try it myself unsuccessfully, obviously. Even though it does seem to, speaking from a perspective of someone who has attempted it, it does tend to kill you inside, that attempt. It takes a lot from you, and also causes a lot of concern and grief to those around you, which I had a woman in this afternoon, mother, grieving the loss of her daughter a few days ago, getting a little memorial tattoo, and the wound was fresh, the grief was right there. We shared a nice moment of recognition that life is not the body, life is the spirit, and she was up there somewhere looking down, laughing at her mother getting her second tattoo. But the idea that life is eternal is something that, for me and from my perspective, it needs to be taught. It needs to be taught to our kids. There's been this great turning away from Orthodox religion, understandably. And it's kind of, even though, if you go back a few generations, most people would have had somebody in their family who was a churchgoer and would probably prop the family up in times of need with that advice and that sort of perspective that comes from the other side of things, whether that be religiously or not. Hopefully not, but you got to get your principles and things from somewhere. But it's with this turning away from religion, it's kind of left this gap, and people have attempted to fill the gap and the void in self-knowledge and self-understanding with the new age and quasi-spiritual things, which don't carry a lot of water for long. I mean, you can't honestly believe in crystals and things like that as being any kind of an indicator of emotional healing and things like that. It's just not where it's at. Sorry if you're a crystal person. You need comfort, and you need blessing, and you need things that help you to find that peace in your soul again that feels like it's been torn apart. And kids need that. Adults need that. Regardless of suicide or whatever the catalyst is that makes you look at your life and examine things. We need these things in our lives that give us a higher perspective. Otherwise, what are we? We're just robots running around working and paying bills and trying to avoid the difficult questions. Pretending like no one else has an answer, so therefore not to worry about it. No one knows anyway. But that's not true. Some of us, like me and many other people I know, have had experiences of things that are unexplainable and go beyond what most people would say is normal life. And those experiences and those learnings have helped to shape higher perspectives, new perspectives, and open up the world for us in ways that make sense of it, that do give it a platform for being purposeful. And our kids aren't taught that in school. They don't go to church to learn it. It's like a whole part of their lives, this whole spiritual part of their lives is ignored. It seems to be, especially in Australia, it seems to be something that other people do, other people take an interest in. And I've got a whole bunch of friends, and some of them are deeply devoted to their own spiritual progress. And when I say spiritual, I mean healing their mental. Some of them having been through great trauma and experience in life that you wouldn't wish upon your worst enemy. One of my closest friends has lost all his family in a period of 18 months through disease and accident and misadventure and things like that. And it's like, how do you deal with things like that without some kind of a platform with which to be able to look at life? How do you deal with the loss of your daughter who took her life only a few days ago? Without some way to be able to process your grief. Life is not just about getting things and fulfilling work obligations and everything else. You think to yourself, how many hours, countless hours and hours have you spent sitting in front of the idiot box just with going in when you could be learning something actually useful, something that'll help you to contribute to the community in a way that brings you back much more satisfaction in life than watching even the best movie on TV ever will. And it's easy for me to say these words. I don't work on the front lines anymore. I'm not an active counsellor. I'm not an active minister particularly. I have a small group that I work with here in Mackay, which is the town I live in, Australia. And I run a local website, and we print and distribute some little booklets that are freely given out through my store and through anyone that wants to help me give them out, which offer new ideas about life. And people can take those little booklets and look on the website, and they can come into contact with new ideas, things they may never have even thought about. And they can take them or they can leave them. For some people they'll be helpful. For some people maybe it'll be too much of a bridge to cross between what you think about life now and what's being presented. I remember the first time that I encountered some really deep and far-reaching spiritual ideas. I remember thinking it was a right lot of old gobbledygook. But it wasn't until I had a very great need for something other than my own thinking, something other than my own ability to cope, that I began to look at these things without judgment and began to take on board the principles embodied by spiritual disciplines and spiritual teachings and things like that. And I saw how those principles could work in my life to bring me peace, to bring me a sense of inner peace, and to help me accept my place in the world. And of course it hasn't been easy. I'm not sitting here like saying I've got anything going on for me that you don't have going on for you. We're all in this together. I know it's not easy. I know that the road to recovery is, and the road to inner peace and the road to mental health is, it's a freaking nightmare. But it's better than not having a road to walk on at all, because where does that leave you? It leaves you with no hope. It leaves you with nowhere to turn. I would rather have a road that was hard to walk than no road at all. So I wanted to make this video to encourage you, the parents, and you who grieve, and you who look for some sort of sense of meaning in the world. Don't give up. Go and find your meaning. You'll never find meaning through the temporal. You'll never find meaning through your kids. You'll find a purpose there. You'll find some sort of outlet for your passions and all of those things, which is a beautiful thing. But you won't find true meaning. You won't find meaning that'll give you rest in your soul. Because one day your kids are going to ask, what's the meaning of life? And what are you going to tell them? I don't know. Or you're going to turn around and you're going to say to them, I'm on a journey just like you are. It's a journey of self-discovery, and here's what I've learnt so far. This is what's helped me. And you can offer them everything you've learned and everything that helps you. And I remember my old granny used to be a cracker for those old people's sayings, you know, those little wisdoms that old people have. A stitch in time saves nine. And, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it or something. All of those things. Keep it simple, stupid. They all come from all over the place, these little sayings, but old people tend to be vast libraries of knowledge for things that help you get through life. And I think it's a damn shame that so many of our old people are locked up in old people's homes and don't get the chance to offer to schools and colleges and things like that the vast wealth of knowledge they have, you know. Which is part of the reason I make these videos. I don't know that I have a vast wealth of knowledge, but I have life experience and I have ministerial training, and I've worked in the welfare system, and I've done a lot of recovery work and facilitated a lot of recovery meetings from addiction and things like that. So I like to make these videos and put them out there as a kind of a resource, I guess, for anyone that comes across them and that might associate with them. It's like the golden rule in life. I mean, well, the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do to you. But the second golden rule in life is teach what you want to learn, because in your teaching of it, you will learn it. Right? Teach peace to have peace within and without. A peaceful mind begins with the decision for a peaceful mind, and then follow the steps that show up after that. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And you'll discover all these principles as you go along. And they're all going to revolve around forgiveness and patience, tolerance, giving and receiving, empathy, compassion, and a willingness to keep an open mind in all things, and to learn from all people in life, to be open-minded and to listen. Learning to listen is that's a whole lesson in itself. Learning to listen with an open mind and not listen based on past ideas and judgments about what you think you're hearing that you've heard before or something like that. Listening brand new. All of these sorts of things, you know, they're things that they're not taught in school. Maybe they're starting to be now. I know there are a few primary school level in our country. My daughter it was only briefly, but did a meditation class in her school, and I was actually really excited for her to be able to do that. You know, teaching the kids how to deal with their thoughts and their emotions. Because there's nothing worse than going through life without knowing why the hell you're here or what your purpose is about, what you should be doing, what you came here to do, all of these sorts of things. And you can find out all these sorts of things through embracing spirituality, whether that be through Buddhism or Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, doesn't really matter. All of these things seen rightly without the judgment placed upon them as being, oh no, that's a lot of old rubbish, because it's like the old saying, don't knock it till you've tried it. And you can't try it. You can't stick your head in the door of some church, go to one service or one temple or a mosque or whatever, go to one service and expect to understand the whole thing, because understanding comes through experience. And I'm not suggesting you go to a church. I'm not suggesting that you go to a mosque or a temple. But I am suggesting don't be opposed to it. If you have a doubt or a little niggling thing, maybe I will look into that. Maybe there's something there for me I can take away from that experience. Be open to it. Be open to everything. Because there's nothing worse than, not having tried. It's like there's nothing worse than getting to old age and having nothing to offer. It's like when my kids turn to me and they ask, why is this the way it is and why is that the way it is? I want to be able to offer them something, whether they take it on board or not. I don't want to be dismissive and just fob them off because I've been too lazy to bloody look into anything for myself, And the greatest enemy we have is our own ignorance. The greatest enemy that we have is our own arrogance, our own laziness. And that might sound like tough love, but it's true, and you know it, and I know it. I used to be the most ignorant, arrogant, laziest bastard going, and now I don't know that I'm not that anymore, but something's changed in me, and I feel like I've got something to offer now. I feel like I can be helpful to those who come to me for help, and there are not many, but the few that do. Unfortunately, most people just want a quick fix, but if your kids are brought up to believe in your beliefs, in the things that you've found that help you, it'll be all the better for them. It'll be at their primary learning level. They'll pick it up right when they're little, and they'll carry those things through life, and they'll be able to examine what it is you've taught them based on their own life experiences and see whether it fits in for them or not. But the worst thing in life is just to dismiss everything, to go through life with a closed mind to everything, because it doesn't sound like anything that you need. You never know when you're going to need this stuff. You never know when you're going to need to apply forgiveness. You never know when you're going to need to apply tolerance and patience and giving and receiving and all of these sorts of things. Because we're terrible at receiving. We're terrible at taking compliments. We're terrible at being told we're perfect and that we're loved. Sometimes we have such a low opinion, such a low self-esteem of ourselves that it's like talking to a brick wall when you tell somebody that they're lovely and they're perfect and they should think of themselves that way. Because we all are. And we all make mistakes, some of them tragic. Some of them we don't know what got into us. But this journey, this passage through time and space that we find ourselves embarked upon, we're not just on it for no reason. We're here on the journey of the soul. We're here to improve the record on the journey of our soul. So take some time, turn off the television, take some time and do some research. Look at the teachings of Buddha, not Buddhism, Buddha. Look directly what the bloke said. Look at the teachings of Jesus. Look directly what he said. You'll start to see a collaboration between those things. if you like Eastern traditions, look at the teachings of Krishna. You'll start to see it's all the same thing. Do unto others. Anyway, I just wanted to put this out there because I'm not good with doing memorial tattoos. Especially on grieving mothers, they come in with their tears and their grief and whatever, and it's like, man, I'm there for you, sister, but I wish I didn't have to be. The world would be a much nicer place if we loved each other and taught each other to love ourselves and others, and to forgive our trespasses and all of those sorts of things. We've got to try. We've got to at least try. We at least got to put one foot on the bottom step and lift ourselves up from where we're at. And then a foot onto the next step, learn something else the next day. And just keep going until we feel like we're able to see things from a higher perspective. It's not difficult, it's just different. You just got to want to. You just got to give a shit. Tough love. It is tough love.